Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of attention has been given to the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea and its impact on global shipping. However, there's a deeper, more strategic, critical problem developing here with regard to the Houthis funding from Iran, and they're moving into Somalia and establishing relationship ties with Al-Shabaab and the Islamic State's Somalia. And this is something that I think is very challenging for the United States. During the first Trump administration, Trump's maximum pressure effort brought Iran's foreign reserves down from over $122.5 billion to under $14 billion. And I'm pleased to see that the Trump administration is again putting maximum pressure on Iran to cut off the flow of money from Iran to terrorist groups like the Houthis. I think that needs to happen to be able to make sure we're putting pressure on them. We also need to get the snapback sanctions on Iran as well. But this growing pipeline of drones, munitions, and military expertise risks turning the Horn of Africa into an extension of Iran's proxy network. If left unchecked, this could destabilize the region, the shipping lanes, embolden the Islamic insurgents, and create a multi-front threat to the U.S. and our interests in the Horn of Africa. Mr. Mercerve, how urgent is this risk that the Houthis are moving into Somalia? Is this a long-term problem? Can you talk a little bit about what you see right now and how urgent that is?
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for the question. As you laid out, it is a very real problem. The Kenyans would say it's maybe their primary national security threat is the prospect of Al-Shabaab getting advanced drones, for instance, from the Houthis, or just getting more advanced capabilities. There's a long history of Al-Shabaab receiving help from AQAP, which was Al-Qaeda's affiliate in Yemen. So those routes are well established, and there's also people constantly moving back and forth. So it's highly plausible, even though the Houthis are a Shia operation and Al-Shabaab is a Sunni one. They can be quite ecumenical when they're focused on attacking the United States or other adversaries. So yeah, it's a very serious concern. I haven't seen in the open source any sort of definitive account of exactly what the exchanges look like. But certainly if it starts to include things like drones or even capabilities around IEDs, then that would be a massive problem, both within Somalia, but also including neighboring states like Kenya, like Ethiopia, potentially even Djibouti.
What should the U.S. Congress do to help be preventive to make sure that the Horn of Africa doesn't become the next step in Iran's proxy network against us?
I think you referenced this maximum pressure campaign. I think Congress should do all that it can to assist such a campaign and remind the administration that the problem extends far beyond Iran, far beyond the Middle East. It also extends into places like Africa. The Houthi Al-Shabaab links are not the only Iranian presence on the continent. There's a long history of Hezbollah receiving funding, especially from West Africa, but actually all across the continent. Shia proselytization and other Iranian activity. I referenced some of the increased recent Iranian activity in my remarks. So Africa should absolutely be part of this maximum pressure campaign, and I think Congress can help the administration do that.
Now, I'm running out of time here, so I want to just switch a little bit to talk about Communist China and their influence on Africa, which we've already discussed a little bit. But one of the things that Communist China is doing is establish a training school in Tanzania. And essentially what they're doing is training the people who are interested in politics about authoritarianism, as the chairman was pointing out, and really working against multi-party democracy. What, again, should we as the U.S. Congress be doing to help push back on what Communist China is doing in East Africa with regard to how they're trying to undermine the democracies there?
So yes, it's China has a whole of government, to use that cliche approach, to undermining democratic norms on the continent. They're very pragmatic. They'll work with any type of government, but they are quite explicitly pushing their own model and saying, look, you can enjoy economic prosperity as well as centralized power, even authoritarian power. So regarding the training school that you referenced, this is the CCP has long links to the liberation movements in Southern Africa, especially, and there are constant trainings ongoing between CCP and liberation movement cadres. In ANC in South Africa, their entire NEC, their governing council has been trained in China. So I think the U.S. Needs to try a variety of approaches. One, again, it needs to unabashedly make the case for democracy, free markets, et cetera. I think it should hearken back to the history the United States has of partnering with countries like Japan, like South Korea, for instance, Germany after World War II, and demonstrate that with strong American partnership, you can really achieve significant gains. I think it should focus heavily on supporting civil society organizations, which are oftentimes the best check on overweening government power, et cetera.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may just can I allow Ambassador Gavin to maybe weigh in on that last question real briefly? Is that okay?
Generous as the chairman is.
You are so generous. Thank you. Ambassador Gavin, could you just quickly, again, just kind of highlight, and don't repeat what Mr. Masurvi said, but anything else you'd observe?
Yes, I think that this relationship between the CCP and these dominant ruling parties on the continent is actually ultimately going to be a disadvantage for China because the sort of discourse about why these ruling parties should be in charge tends to link back to liberation, and most African societies skew very young. These are populations that don't remember pre-liberation days and are wondering what their government has done for them lately. So I think, continuing to hold, it would be nice to restore some of the democracy and governance work that the U.S. did, NDI and IRI, that help really draw a clear line between party and state, which is also important for combating corruption, which if you look at Afrobarometer polling is at the very top of African priority lists. So we can align ourselves with these populations that way.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.